Why do some 80-year-olds seem genuinely unbothered by life's constant chaos, while others your age are stressed, worried, and miserable every single day? I'm going to share 5 habits that people call strange or even selfish, but they're the exact reasons I sleep peacefully every night, while most people my age are anxious and exhausted. And here's something that might surprise you. The first habit is so counterintuitive that when I tell people about it, they think I'm being irresponsible. But Harvard research proves it dramatically lowers stress hormones and can actually extend your lifespan. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share could transform your remaining years from anxious to peaceful. At 75, I was constantly anxious, couldn't sleep through a single night, worried endlessly about everything my adult children were doing wrong, and felt personally responsible for fixing everyone's problems around me. My doctor warned that my stress levels were genuinely dangerous and contributing to high blood pressure. Then I started doing 5 specific things that my family thought were strange. My friends openly questioned and honestly made me feel guilty at first, but they completely transformed my peace of mind within months. Habit 1. I stopped watching the daily news. Does watching the news actually make you feel informed and prepared, or does it make you feel terrified about a world you cannot possibly control? Research published by the American Psychological Association confirms that consuming news for more than 30 minutes daily significantly increases cortisol levels in your bloodstream, disrupts natural sleep patterns, and directly contributes to anxiety disorders, especially in older adults whose brains are more susceptible to fear-based information and negative stimuli. The news media operates on a simple business model. Fear keeps you watching, and watching generates advertising revenue. They're not trying to inform you objectively. They're trying to keep you afraid enough to stay glued to the screen through the next commercial break. Every shocking headline, every breaking news alert, every political argument, every crime story from a city you'll never visit, it all floods your nervous system with stress hormones that your body was never designed to handle in such concentrated, constant doses. Think about what actually happens when you watch hours of news daily. You're absorbing information about terrible events happening all over the world, most of which you cannot influence, prevent, or change in any way. You're not watching because you need this information to make better decisions in your life. You're watching out of habit, fear of missing something important, or because you believe staying informed is your civic duty. But here's the truth. Knowing every detail about political arguments in Washington or crimes in distant cities doesn't make you more informed. It makes you more anxious, more fearful, more convinced the world is falling apart, and completely powerless to do anything about any of it. Your blood pressure rises, your sleep suffers, your mood darkens, and your peace evaporates, all so you can know about problems you cannot solve. My neighbor Clarence, 77, watches cable news from the moment he wakes up until he goes to bed at night. He lives in constant fear about crime waves, political chaos, economic collapse, and disasters happening hundreds or thousands of miles away that will never affect his quiet suburban life. His wife told me he barely sleeps anymore. His blood pressure requires multiple interventions, and he's convinced the country is on the verge of total catastrophe. Despite living in one of the safest, most prosperous periods in human history, here's what I want you to do starting today. Limit your news consumption to 15 minutes once daily, just enough to scan headlines and know the basics of what's happening. Better yet, check news just once weekly and discover that you actually miss nothing important. You'll still be informed about major events. You'll still be able to vote, make decisions, and have conversations. But you won't be drowning in the constant stream of negativity, fear, and problems you cannot solve. Your nervous system is being damaged by news overload right now. Cut back starting today. Habit 2. I say no without explaining why. How many times every single week do you say yes to things you absolutely don't want to do, simply because you feel guilty saying no to people? Studies from the Mayo Clinic show that people who struggle with boundary setting and chronic people-pleasing behavior experience 50% higher rates of stress-related health problems, including hypertension, digestive disorders, and compromised immune function. When you cannot say no, you're essentially telling the world that everyone else's wants matter more than your own needs, your time has no value, and your peace is less important than avoiding momentary discomfort. You're teaching people that they can ask anything of you, and you'll say yes, regardless of how it affects you. This pattern doesn't just create stress, it creates resentment that poisons relationships and steals every bit of peace from your life. Here's what happens inside your body every time you say yes when you mean no. Your stress hormones spike because you're going against your own truth. Your nervous system registers the internal conflict between what you want and what you're agreeing to do. Your body keeps score of every time you betray yourself to keep others happy, and eventually it manifests as physical illness, chronic exhaustion, or emotional breakdown. The guilt you feel about saying no is temporary and manageable. The resentment you feel from always saying yes is permanent and toxic. You cannot maintain peace while constantly overriding your own needs to accommodate everyone else's demands on your time and energy. Wilma, 73, from Ohio, drove 40 minutes every Sunday to babysit her granddaughter, despite being completely exhausted from the drive and the physical demands. She finally realized she was saying yes purely out of guilt and fear of being seen as a bad grandmother, not from genuine desire. When she started saying no to half the requests, her relationship with her daughter actually improved because the time she did spend was willing rather than resentful. Practice this exact phrase and use it without guilt. That doesn't work for me. You don't need to provide elaborate excuses about conflicting plans or health issues. You don't need to apologize repeatedly for having boundaries. You don't need to justify why something doesn't work for you. Just state it kindly and clearly, that doesn't work for me, and then be quiet. Most people will accept it and move on. Those who push back or make you feel guilty for having boundaries are exactly the people who most need to hear you say no. Start protecting your energy today before resentment completely destroys your peace. Habit 3. I let my adult children make their own mistakes. Are you still lying awake at night trying to rescue, fix, or control your adult children's lives as if they're still teenagers who need your constant guidance? Research from the National Institute on Aging indicates that parents who struggle to release control over their adult children experience significantly elevated anxiety, depression, and stress-related illness compared to parents who establish healthy emotional boundaries with grown offspring. Your job was to raise them to adulthood. That job is complete. Their job now is to live their own lives, make their own decisions, and yes, make their own mistakes and learn from them. When you continue trying to parent adults, you're not helping them. You're preventing their growth, infantilizing them, and destroying your own mental health with worry about problems you cannot and should not solve. Think about what it costs you emotionally and physically to carry the weight of your adult children's problems on your shoulders. You lose sleep worrying about their job situations, their marriages, their parenting choices, their financial decisions. You offer unsolicited advice that creates tension in your relationship. You feel responsible when they struggle, as if their adult failures reflect your parenting decades ago. You cannot control their lives, you cannot prevent them from making mistakes, and your anxiety about their choices accomplishes absolutely nothing except stealing your peace. They need to learn from natural consequences, develop their own problem-solving abilities, and take full ownership of their adult lives. Your continued interference prevents all of that while making you sick with worry. Franklin, 79, from Texas, finally stopped offering unsolicited advice to his 50-year-old son about career moves and discovered their relationship improved dramatically when he stopped trying to parent a grown man. His son started calling more often because conversations became enjoyable rather than lectures, And Franklin slept better, knowing he wasn't carrying burdens that weren't his to carry. Here's your new response when adult children share their problems. Instead of jumping in with solutions, advice, or taking responsibility, simply say, "That sounds tough. What are you thinking of doing?" Let them think through their own solutions. Offer support and love without offering to fix it. Resist the urge to save them from consequences. Your children are adults who need to figure out their own lives, and you are a senior who deserves peace instead of perpetual worry about grown people's choices. Stop carrying burdens that aren't yours to carry. Release that weight today. Habit 4. I schedule doing nothing time. When was the last time you sat quietly doing absolutely nothing without feeling guilty about wasting time or being unproductive? Johns Hopkins medicine research demonstrates that scheduled periods of rest and intentional boredom activate the brain's default mode network, which reduces anxiety, improves emotional regulation, and significantly lowers blood pressure in older adults. Your nervous system desperately needs periods of genuine rest where you're not consuming information, accomplishing tasks, or being productive. Modern culture has convinced us that every moment must be filled with activity, that rest is laziness, and that doing nothing is wasting precious time. This belief is destroying your peace and your health. Your body needs regular periods of nothingness to heal, process, regulate, and simply exist without demands. We've become terrified of quiet moments alone with our own thoughts. We fill every second with television, phones, busy work, or activities because sitting still feels uncomfortable or wrong. But that constant stimulation and busyness keep your nervous system in perpetual fight or flight mode, preventing the deep rest and parasympathetic activation your body needs to heal itself and regulate stress. Doing nothing isn't wasting time. It's giving your overworked nervous system the break it desperately needs. Those moments of boredom and stillness are when your brain processes experiences, consolidates memories, solves problems creatively, and regulates emotions. When you eliminate all quiet downtime, you eliminate your body's natural healing processes. Della, 76, from Arizona, felt tremendous guilt every time she sat on her back porch, doing absolutely nothing but watching birds and feeling the breeze. Her doctor explained that those quiet moments were more therapeutic for her blood pressure and anxiety than any stress management technique or intervention could provide. Block out 30 minutes every single day for intentional rest, where you do absolutely nothing. Sit on your porch. Look out the window, sit in your favorite chair, or simply be still without television, without your phone, without a book, without any activity or distraction. Let yourself be bored. Let your mind wander. Give your nervous system permission to rest deeply. This isn't laziness. This is essential health maintenance. Your body is desperately craving this rest that you're not giving it. Start today. Habit 5. I accept that some people won't like me. How much energy are you wasting every single day trying to make everyone around you like and approve of you? Harvard Medical School studies confirm that people who base their self-worth on others' approval experience chronic stress, elevated inflammation markers throughout the body, and significantly increased risk of depression and anxiety disorders. The desperate need for universal approval is a prison that guarantees perpetual anxiety because you cannot control what other people think about you. Some people won't like you no matter what you do, and twisting yourself into knots trying to win their approval is a complete waste of your limited energy and time. Peace comes when you finally accept that not everyone will like you, and that's not only okay, it's completely normal and healthy. Think about the people whose approval you're chasing. Are they living peaceful, happy lives that you want to emulate? Are their opinions actually valuable and informed? Do they approve of themselves, or are they miserable and critical of everyone? Most often, the people whose approval we desperately seek are themselves unhappy, judgmental, and impossible to please. You're sacrificing your authentic self and your peace to gain something that will never be given from people whose opinions don't actually matter to your well-being. When you base your self-worth on others' approval, you give away all your power to people who may not like you simply because you remind them of someone, or because they're unhappy with their own lives, or for reasons that have nothing to do with you. Wesley, 81, from Florida, stopped attending family gatherings where certain relatives constantly criticized his life choices and made subtle jabs about his decisions. His blood pressure dropped 20 points within 3 months of eliminating that toxic exposure, and he realized those people's disapproval said everything about them and nothing about him. Write this truth down and read it every morning until you believe it deeply in your bones. Not everyone will like me, and that's perfectly fine. Some people won't like you, and their dislike doesn't make you wrong or unworthy. It simply means you're not their type of person, and they're not yours. Stop performing for an audience that will never give you the standing ovation you're seeking. Be yourself fully and unapologetically, and make peace with the fact that your authentic self won't appeal to everyone. Stop performing for approval. Be yourself, starting now. You've just discovered 5 unconventional habits that create genuine peace after 60, drastically limiting news exposure that only generates anxiety you cannot act on. Saying no without guilt or lengthy justifications, releasing control over your adult children's lives and choices, scheduling regular time to do absolutely nothing, and accepting that universal approval is impossible and unnecessary. These habits might seem strange or even selfish to people who are still living in constant stress and chaos, but they're backed by solid medical research, and they genuinely work. Peace isn't something you stumble upon or that happens to you. It's something you deliberately create by setting firm boundaries, releasing what you cannot control, and prioritizing your own well-being without apology or guilt. You've earned the right to be unbothered at this stage of life. Which of these 5 habits seems hardest for you to adopt, and why do you think that is? Tell me honestly in the comments, because your answer will help other seniors who are struggling with the exact same challenge. If even one of these habits resonated with you or gave you permission to prioritize your peace, hit that like button so YouTube shows this message to other seniors who desperately need to hear it. Subscribe because I share practical wisdom every week for seniors who want to actually enjoy these years instead of just anxiously surviving them. Share this video with any senior friend who's still running themselves ragged trying to please everyone and control everything. You might be giving them the permission they need to finally put themselves first. Which habit will you start practicing today? I'll see you in the next video.